I have two items at the top for all of you. One is a readout of the U.S.-India CEO Forum that took place this morning. Today, the State Department hosted CEOs from 7 U.S. and 6 Indian companies for a session of the U.S.-India CEO Forum. Deputy Secretary Burns was pleased to welcome to the State Department Treasury Secretary Lew, Commerce Secretary Pritzker, U.S. Trade Representative Mike Froman, and Deputy National Security Advisor Carolyn Atkinson, and their Indian counterparts, Finance Minister Chidambaram, Commerce Minister Sharma, and Deputy Chairman Planning Commission of India Montek Singh Aluwali. Along with the CEO Forum co-chairs Ratan Tata of the Tata Group and David Cody of Honeywell. U.S.-India bilateral trade is nearing $100 billion, and the CEO Forum today reviewed our very robust public-private cooperation in support of that and how we can further enhance U.S.-India economic engagement, including how our governments can expand opportunities for our private sectors in trade, investment, and innovation. The participants also enjoyed very productive conversations on new as well as ongoing collaborations on water and energy efficiency, agricultural technology, aviation, security, health, and more, underscoring the true depth and breadth of the U.S.-India partnership. The U.S.-India CEO Forum is a key element in the broad U.S.-India economic engagement, following up on our conversations at the June 24th Strategic Dialogue. And my only other item is that, and you've seen this in the press, but just wanted to confirm for all of you, that next week there will be a meeting of the P5+1 political directors in Brussels on Tuesday, July 16th. Undersecretary Wendy Sherman will be leading the U.S. delegation. As you know, they meet regularly, and this will be to discuss the way forward. So with that, let's get to...
Just to start, you don't have any update on the Secretary's schedule?
I do not. I do not right now.
Can we start in Russia with Mr. Snowden? I'm wondering if, since he has now asked the Russians for asylum, there has been any contact between this building and the Russians about your feelings about his status?
Well, I can tell you I hadn't seen, or I don't have independent confirmation, I guess I should say, about any request he's made. I can tell you that we have been in touch, of course, with Russian officials. Our embassy in Moscow has been in direct contact on the ground. We are disappointed that Russian officials and agencies facilitated this meeting today by allowing these activists and representatives into the Moscow airport's transit zone to meet with Mr. Snowden, despite the government's declarations of Russia's neutrality with respect to Mr. Snowden.
So, I'm sorry, you're disappointed that they let someone into their own airport? I don't get it.
Well, that they facilitated this event, of course.
Well, why?
Because this gave a forum.
You don't think that he should have a forum? Has he's forfeited his right to freedom of speech as well?
Well, Matt, Mr. Snowden, as we've talked about, let me just state this because I think it's important. He's not a whistleblower. He's not a human rights activist. He's wanted on a series of serious criminal charges brought in the Eastern District of Virginia in the United States.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I didn't realize people who were wanted on charges forfeited their right to speak to free speech. I also didn't realize that people who were not whistleblowers or not human rights activists, as you say he is not, that they forfeited their rights to speak. So I don't understand why you're disappointed with the Russians. But neither that, leave that aside for a second. The group WikiLeaks put out a transcript, I guess, essentially, of what Mr. Snowden said at the airport. At the top of that transcript, it contained, it said that the Human Rights Watch, the representative from Human Rights Watch, researcher who went to this thing, while she was on her way to the airport, got a phone call from the American ambassador asking her to relay a message to Mr. Snowden that, basically the message that you just gave here, that one, he is not a whistleblower, and two, that he's wanted in the United States. Is that correct?
It is not correct. First, Ambassador McFaul did not call any representative from Human Rights Watch. An embassy officer did call to explain our position, certainly that I just reiterated here for all of you today, but at no point did this official or any official from the U.S. government ask anyone to convey a message to Mr. Snowden.
Did anyone from the embassy call any of the other groups, representatives of groups that were going to this meeting?
Well,
or that you understood were going to this meeting?
as I'm sure would be no surprise, and as you know, because we even had a civil society event when the secretary was there, we are in regular touch, as we have been today. I don't have an update on the exact list of calls, though, for you.
Well, but you can say pretty conclusively that that this one call did happen, and it wasn't the ambassador. So were there others? Do you know?
We
did
have
calls go
been
to
in
other
touch
groups?
with
Okay.
attendees. I don't have any
Yes.
specifics for you, though.
Okay, and the and you have made no secret of the fact that any country or government that gives Mr. Snowden asylum or allows him to transit through that there would be some serious consequences, grave consequences in their relationship with the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Have you made the same, and presumably that would apply to individuals who would help him help him avoid returning here to face justice? That's correct?
I'm not sure what that exactly
Well,
means.
what I'm getting at is these groups, these human rights groups that are respected human rights groups,
Mm-hmm.
which you yourself, as well as previous spokespeople, have quoted from
Mm-hmm.
in relation to other situations, have taken a side in support of Mr. Snowden. And I'm wondering if there are any consequences for them if they aid and abet Mr. Snowden in staying away out of the reach of U.S. authorities.
Well, we obviously don't think this was a proper forum or a proper elevation of him. Beyond that, the way that I think it's been asked, but also the way we've thought about it, is more about governments and our relationships with them and their aid or decisions to aid Mr. Snowden.
Right, but I guess the question is, if you think this was an inappropriate forum, did you try to dissuade these groups from going there?
From attending?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of, Matt.
Okay, so the
Obviously, they
call-
were invited to attend.
So the calls were just a reminder of your position. But did you say to Human Rights Watch or Amnesty International that if you guys help Mr. Snowden or support him in some way so that to keep him from facing justice back in the United States, that there would be consequences for them?
I don't have any readouts of these calls. Our focus remains
Okay,
on
well then can you say-
conveying to the Russian government the fact that they have
Okay.
the ability to help return Mr. Snowden to the United States.
Did you tell them in the calls that you did not think that Mr. Snowden should have the opportunity to express his view?
Matt, I don't have any readout for these calls for you. We did
Okay, well,
we did
forget
convey
about the
the broad
calls then.
point that I've made.
Okay, well then forget about what you
Mm-hmm.
said or what the embassy people said in these specific phone calls. Do you believe that Mr. Snowden should not have had the opportunity to express his views at the airport in Moscow today?
Well, Matt, I think we broadly believe in free speech, as you know.
Except when
but
it
we
comes to
cannot
this.
look at this as I know we like to ask about sweeping scenarios in here,
I don't
but
know, this is not sweeping at all. This is very specific, related to one guy in one place, in one city, one airport, at one time. So do you think that it was inappropriate for Mr. Snowden to speak publicly? Not that whether you're disappointed in the Russians, do you think that he should not have had the opportunity to speak publicly?
our focus, Matt, is on how our concern about how Russian authorities clearly helped assist the ability of attendees to participate in this. That is of concern to us. Our focus is on returning Mr. Snowden to the United States. Beyond that, I just don't have anything more.
Okay, I'm trying to get, you are saying that this essentially, it wasn't a press conference, but it might as well have been. And you don't think the Russians should have
Facilitated a propaganda platform for Mr.
a
Snowden.
propaganda platform. Okay, so this is, to your mind, something like them bringing out a defected spy from the Cold War and putting him on a platform and having him rail against the United States. Is that what the
I'm not going to
administration
draw
believes?
comparisons along those lines, but let me say
A propaganda
that
platform
Mr.
is close enough.
Snowden should return to the United States to face these charges, where he will be accorded a fair trial. That's where our focus is.
Propaganda platform, or is this kind of putting in train a process for asylum? Because last week or 2 weeks ago, the Russians said that they would consider his request for asylum if Mr. Snowden would stop leaking material about or leaking information about U.S. Surveillance programs. Now, he wouldn't do that before, and he tried some other areas for asylum. Now, in this propaganda platform, as you call it, he said that he has decided to not to leak any more information, or he doesn't have any more information, but he's done. So are you concerned now that this is him accepting conditions for Russian asylum publicly as opposed to just, some kind of propaganda? I mean, is that your real concern here, that these are the conditions for asylum and now he's publicly meeting them?
Our concern here is that he's been provided this opportunity to speak in a propaganda platform, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, that Russia has played a role in facilitating this, that others have helped elevate it, but we still believe that Russia has the opportunity to do the right thing and facilitate his return to the United States. I don't have any independent knowledge, as would be no surprise, of what he has officially requested, what has officially been accepted or not.
Okay, but it's pretty public that Russia said that they would consider his asylum petition if he said that if he would agree publicly to stop leaking information. Now he's done that. Mm-hmm. So is that propaganda, or is that publicly agreeing to Russia's conditions and kind of moving the asylum petition along?
I'm just not going to make an evaluation of what Russia's conditions are and whether
you don't have to make an evaluation. They've said it publicly.
Finish, whether he meets them. That's not the point here. The point is Russia helped facilitate this. They have the ability and the opportunity to do the right thing and help return Mr. Snowden to the United States. It's not about what the conditions are.
Your concern now is that this is that Russia is by facilitating. I mean, are you really upset that this is propaganda, or are you really upset that Russia is moving closer to accepting this guy's asylum?
Well, we don't know that. This is a step that was taken today. Obviously, we continue to call for his return. They have a role they can play in that. Beyond that, I'm not going to speculate what they are or aren't going to do.
Jane, can I just ask, what level of seniority was the U.S. official that called Human Rights Watch?
I don't have an exact position for you on that. It was not the ambassador, though.
Okay. And how did the U.S. get to know about this visit? Were you informed by the Russians or by Human Rights Watch?
We learned when it was made public, just as many of your organizations did.
Can I just add, in the conversation that the ambassador or whoever it was the embassy had, not with the human rights people, but with the Russian government, did you tell them that facilitating this appearance by Mr. Snowden was problematic, that you thought that they shouldn't do it? Did you ask them not to do it?
We made our concerns and our view on Mr. Snowden clear.
No, but specifically about giving him this propaganda platform, as you called it.
I don't have any more to read out for you from the private phone calls, Matt, just that we have been in touch.
Did you ask the Russians, please don't do this, we think he's a criminal and needs to come back? Did you ask and they rejected the request?
Well, Matt, we've been clear publicly countless times what our view is, and we've consistently made the same points privately, today and any other day.
Right, but did you say that you would look negatively on them providing him a quote unquote propaganda platform?
I just don't have any more on the specifics of the calls.
Is the United States government now in the business of trying to discourage people or governments from facilitating people having meeting with human rights activists? I don't
Matt,
get it.
This is not a universal position of the United States. This is an individual who has been accused of 3 felony charges.
But surely,
this is not a unique.
He's been accused. Do you remember the old line that we're supposed to all know? He has not been convicted of anything yet.
And he can return to the United States and face the charges.
But he can also, surely, people who are accused of crimes are allowed their right of free speech, are they not?
Matt, I think we've gone the round.
It's a legitimate question. I mean, you talk about even in Russia that journalists have been persecuted and political activists have been persecuted, and you call for free speech around the world, but you're not saying that Mr. Snowden has the right of free speech?
That's not at all what I was saying. We believe, of course, broadly in free speech. Our concern here was that there was obvious facilitation by the Russians in this case, We've conveyed that. We've conveyed our concerns.
So
I'm
you're
seeing them
upset.
publicly.
You're not upset about the press conference. You're upset that the Russians facilitated
We
it.
certainly are upset that there was a platform for an individual
But
who's
what
been
does that
accused of
matter?
felony
What does
crimes.
that? But what does that matter, really? I mean, people that are in jail or on trial in the United States, they give press conferences or they speak out all the time. I mean, it sounds to me like what you're not really upset with the act that he spoke. You're upset with the fact that the Russians did something on his behalf.
I think I've expressed what we're
I don't-
upset about, and you keep saying what we're upset about, but I think I've made clear what we're upset about.
Madam, can I just follow quickly?
Just a quick, I'm sorry, question on this. The Secretary has said in the past that this issue with Ed Snowden is just not his portfolio, and that all of this is being handled primarily through the Justice Department. Can you clarify what the State Department's role is then? Because obviously there is contact today on the ground in Russia with diplomats.
Well, I
and
think
the
just for context's sake for everybody, that was said after a meeting with Foreign Minister Lavrov. Obviously, there are a number of issues that we do discuss and will continue to discuss with the Russians, but we're going to express concerns where we have them. We have been in touch on the ground. Embassy officials have been in touch on the ground with Russian officials. So yes, of course, we have expressed our concerns, and they have been expressed previously. But the Secretary was making that comment in the context of his meeting with Foreign Minister Lavrov.
So what is the regular channel of communication between embassy officials, or is it at a higher level? I mean, has Deputy Secretary Burns been in more regular contact? We haven't really heard in recent
I
days
just don't
feedbacks.
have any other specific calls or contacts to read out for you. Obviously, there are many components of the government who are engaged and involved in this issue, but beyond that, I don't have anything specific for
Is
you.
it this building's role then to formally request a denial of asylum? I mean, what is the communication here? If the issue of him being a fugitive is handled through justice, what is it that state is doing?
Well, we would like to see him return to the United States, and he can be put on a plane to do exactly that.
So does that mean the issuance of an actual letter from the State Department? Would the counselor issue a letter on State Department letterhead, or is that simply reserved for the Attorney General?
That's ahead of where the process is right now. I think, as events unfold, we can provide you all updates.
Jennifer, on this point that you were talking about just now, there was apparently a fresh offer for asylum if he stops leaking. That was made today.
Which
I
Elise just
understand.
asked
That was
about.
made today, like a couple hours ago. So what is exactly your position? I didn't understand it. So did you tell the Russians that that is rejected, that is unacceptable? What language did you use?
Well, we've conveyed outside of that. I don't have any independent confirmation of what's been offered or what's been approved or accepted. Beyond that, Russia has the ability to do the right thing, the opportunity to do the right thing, and facilitate his return to the United States.
And second, you said that he's not a whistleblower, he's a felon. Now,
I said
according
he's
to
been accused.
He's been accused, okay.
of felony
He's not-
crimes,
Yeah,
yes.
but apparently, public opinion polls in America show that 3-1, the public says that he's a whistleblower. Does that factor in, like, the petition in Egypt in any way?
I think you're linking a lot of
No,
things
okay,
together
well,
there.
what is-
I'm conveying he is a United States citizen.
Right.
He's facing crimes in the United States. He can return to the United States and face the charges.
Okay, so public opinion should not matter in this case. That's what you're saying.
In terms of
This is a purely
defining
legal.
his specific role, I'm giving you an overview of the U.S. government view.
Just a quick follow. Are privately Russians are telling you in Moscow or at the United Nations or in Washington about this offer?
Are they
Asylum,
privately?
yeah.
I just don't have any updates on that for you, Goya.
When was the last time before today's contacts did anyone from this building talk with Russian officials, or have all of the conversations been strictly from the Justice Department?
Well, I think even Secretary Kerry spoke briefly with Foreign Minister Lavrov about it when they last met. So obviously there have been contacts at a range of levels. I don't have any update for you on the last high-level contact from the building, but it's fair to say that the State Department, just like other administration departments where appropriate, have been very engaged. We've been working very closely with the Department of Justice, as the Secretary also said.
But wouldn't it be logical to assume that if the entree was made for Amnesty and Human Rights Watch and WikiLeaks and other people to get into this transit zone, that the Russian authorities would have had some sort of heads up and would have conceivably made some sort of arrangements in order to get them into an area where theoretically they're not supposed to have access because they're not, quote, in transit. And wouldn't the U.S. have had more of an alert before finding out from the media today that this event was going to happen?
Well, you are correct that this is an area only accessible with the assistance of Russian authorities. Beyond that, we of course saw the announcement earlier this morning online or wherever it was first made, but that was the first we learned of the plans for this event.
Is it your position that in his meeting with these human rights activists, Mr. Snowden committed more violations of American law?
Don't think I was suggesting that, Matt.
Okay, then I just don't understand. I think this is an incredibly slippery slope that you're going down here, that the U.S. government is going down here. If you are coming up and saying to us that you're trying to prevent an American citizen, albeit one who's been accused of serious crimes, from exercising his right to free speech, you don't agree with that?
I believe that what I've conveyed most proactively here is our concern about those who helped facilitate this event
Yes.
and make it into a propaganda platform.
Right. Well, and the propaganda platform aside, free speech covers propaganda. Last time I checked, it covers a lot of things. And I don't see, unless he somehow violated U.S. law by speaking at the transit line at the Russian airport, I don't see why you would be disappointed in the Russians for, one, facilitating it, but also apparently, from what it sounds like, try to discourage them from allowing this event to take place at all.
Well, Matt, this isn't happening clearly because we wouldn't be talking about it in a vacuum. And this is an individual, as we all know, who has been accused of felony crimes in the United States. We've expressed strongly our desire to have him returned to face those charges. This is all applicable context to these circumstances.
But as you have also said, he is a U.S. citizen. He remains a U.S. citizen, and he enjoys certain rights as a U.S. citizen. One of those rights, from your point of view, is that he has the right to come back and face trial for the crimes he's committed. But the rights that you're not talking about are his right to free speech, his right to talk with whoever he wants to, freedom to assemble. I don't understand why those rights are, why you ignore those and simply say that he's welcome to come back to the United States to exercise his right to be tried by a jury of his peers. Why is that the only right that he gets, according to this administration?
I don't think that's what my statement conveyed.
All right.
Has the U.S. had contact with the Russian ambassador here to convey that message?
I'd have to check on additional contacts beyond what I just stated.
Okay.
Is there a belief in this building that the Russians are not dealing with the U.S. in good faith regarding Edward Snowden?
I think our belief is what I stated, which is that they still have the opportunity to do the right thing. We are disappointed with their role in facilitating the events of this morning, but we will continue to convey that we'd like to see him returned, and they can play a role in that.
How much is this? Sorry. I was just going to ask, has the administration sent any officials or any people representing the administration to this transit area in the Moscow airport to try and make contact with Snowden directly?
Not that I'm aware of.
How, if the Russians accept his asylum position, how badly will this damage the relationship? Is this the most important issue in the relationship with Russia right now?
Well, I'm not going to rank them. Obviously, we work with Russia on a range of issues. There's no question that, as we've stated broadly with any country that would have a role in assisting him either in transit or in a final place for him to live, that would raise concerns in our relationship. However, we're not at that point yet. They still
raise
have
concerns, or would it kind of damage the relationship
Well,
irreparably.
at least this hasn't happened yet. They still have the opportunity to do the right thing and return Mr. Snowden to the United States, and that's what our hope is.
But you don't really think that's going to happen. I mean, you're growing resigned to the idea that they're going to accept his asylum petition.
I'm not. That's not at all what I stated.
Contentious, I don't think. Do you know if the Secretary has any plans to talk to Lavrov? I mean, yes, I realize that it's not necessarily their specific portfolios, but now that it is a diplomatic thing.
I'm not aware of a planned call, Matt.
Could I ask, the WikiLeaks statement that Edward Snowden put out, he accepted all extant offers of asylum, including the one from Venezuela, and said that that relationship is now formal, that he's now an asylee. But does the U.S. recognize this? And he also said that that would give him some kind of international legal protections. And in that case, as an asylee, what kind of implications would that have for the U.S.'s continuing efforts to extradite him?
Well, it's not for the United States to recognize. Our position and our message to every government we've communicated with has been the same, which is that we'd like to see him returned to face the charges he's been accused of. I don't have any independent confirmation of what's been offered or accepted in any of these cases. Are we done with Snowden? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
In summary, just to say that today's events have not changed the U.S. position and have not changed his legal status, Snowden's status.
Sir, on the second, not that I'm aware of. And on the first, absolutely, it has not changed our position.
U.S.-India Summit. This CEO's forum was part of the yesterday investing in India at the United U.S. IBC, U.S. India Business Council Summit yesterday. 38 years of U.S.-India trade and business relations, where these 500 Fortune member companies were there. My question is that now they are turning to rather investing in India, but investing in America by the Indian companies, more than $11 billion, and created over 100,000 jobs in the U.S. Question is that they are saying $94 billion only trade between the two countries. But last year they were talking about this will reach to $500 billion. So where is the problem? What is the gap? How these two countries can forward? We're talking so much trade and financing and largest two financing countries and moving forward, and so much has been going on, trade and investment and so forth. So what is the future of these two countries as far as moving forward?
Well, Goyal, let me simply say that obviously the fact that the U.S.-India CEO Forum happened today, that there were robust conversations about the trade relationship, the importance of that, and continuing to expand on it speaks to how much we value the India partnership. Sure.
It seems to have been, at least thus far today, relatively quiet. Well, maybe quiet's not the right word, but non-massacre-ish. How's that?
Okay, I'm not aware that's a word.
Yeah, well,
It's a Friday.
I just made it up. But I'm just wondering if you're encouraged by what you've seen in response to your appeals to the military for extreme restraint, or maximum restraint, and your appeals to them to stop these arbitrary arrests of the Muslim Brotherhood and others, and on your calls to everyone to take it down a notch, be calm.
Well, Matt, we obviously are monitoring this very closely, day by day, both on the ground and from Washington, of course. And we're not going to get ahead of that process. Naturally, of course, the most important steps that can be taken now are continued steps toward the democratic transition, doing that through an inclusive process, which includes all sides, and continuing and a focus on calling for an end and a reduction to violence. But I don't want to make an evaluation day by day because obviously the events continue to be volatile and fluid on the ground.
Right. That's fair enough, and I realize that today is not over yet, especially there, and Fridays have traditionally been, or historically been, a day of concern. But can you say if at least you're encouraged that you think that the message is getting through?
Well, I don't want to. Whether or not they actually act on it.
or do what the things that you have suggested or say that you think are in the best interests of the Egyptian people. I'm just wondering if there's any, if the administration believes that its message has gotten through to the people who need to get it.
I can't make an evaluation of that on their behalf. We continue to call for, and we continue to convey for the fair treatment and the good treatment of those who are detained, and continue to express the concerns I've expressed a couple times this week.
Do you think it's incumbent upon the military or anybody else to declare some reasoning or cause for these detentions?
Well, certainly rule of law would be requiring there to be a process exactly along those lines.
And do you see that?
Well, I don't know. I know every case is different, but we still continue to view these as politically motivated arrests, and still continue to believe that they should be released.
Let me ask you on the statement made by the German foreign minister today. They called for the release of President Mohamed Morsi. Do you concur, or are you likely to do the same thing anytime soon?
We do agree.
You do agree that he must be released.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When the military releases President Morsi, will you be recognizing him as the president of Egypt or not?
Well, I know there was yesterday a legal question, I believe, from Nicole, who I think just stepped out on this along these specific lines. So let me just give you an answer on that in terms of who we work with. It is, of course, up to the Egyptian people, as we've said a number of times, to determine their future and the path forward. We are working with the interim government, and I can also confirm for you that Ambassador Patterson has met with the interim president as well.
But the Egyptians have voted for President Morsi 1 year ago, and now there is no elections.
Well, part of it is the path forward and where things go from here. And there, of course, has been a plan that has been laid out as a first step. But moving forward with an inclusive process is what we would like to see. And while, yes, we, of course, recognize that Morsi was, President Morsi was democratically elected, the question, this is more, and I've said this before, as have many other officials, it's about more than what happens at the ballot box. Most democratic transitions take years to take root and stabilize, especially following decades of autocratic rule. And what we're focused on now is continuing to encourage that process to move forward by including all sides.
Does this mean if they will release him tomorrow, you're not recognizing him as the president of Egypt?
I think I just stated who we've been working with, but obviously it's up to the Egyptian people from here.
So far you have been unable to designate what happened in Egypt as a coup or not a coup. Yesterday, an Egyptian scholar, Muna Makram, called it popular impeachment. Do you agree with that term? That was a popular impeachment?
We have not defined it yet. We are taking the time to evaluate and continue to do that.
But you've also said that you are taking into account the fact that, you know, upwards of 30 million people on the streets, 22 million on the signature, their voices should count for something, and you're noting that this is reflecting the popular will of the people. So is this case going to be applied in all cases now, that when you decide what happened, whether someone was taken from power or not, what the people demand is possibly a factor in here?
I can only speak to what we're looking at.
It does set a precedent, though.
It's not intended. Every case is different. Every country is different, and we've always said that.
Are you concerned that it might set a precedent? Are you concerned that this actually might set a precedent?
Well, we haven't made a decision yet, Saeed, so there's nothing to set a precedent on.
Come back. You said that the U.S. agrees with the German call that President Morsi should be released. Have you conveyed that officially to the Egyptians?
I know we're in regular contact. I'd have to check if that has been specifically conveyed
But
privately.
the fact that you agree with it means that you must also be feeling that he should be released now, and one would think that that would have been officially
I'll have to
have been
check on
forwarded
the
on.
exact lines of communication on that specific point.
During Ambassador Patterson's meeting with the interim president?
Again, I don't have any readout of that, just that they met.
Do you know when she
Something
met?
that you just decided on today that you think he should be released, or is this something that just had gone, that you had not said, or others had not said from podiums before, but had always been your position since he was taken into custody, or since he was detained under house arrest?
Well, I can't speak to all of the internal thinking on everything,
Can
but
you-
obviously we haven't said it before today.
I know, so, but is this something that, had this been the U.S. position prior to today, or was it just decided today that you should call for his release?
Well, I just
Publicly?
I just did it today publicly.
Okay. Can I
Beyond
ask-
that, I don't want to.
Well, then can I ask why today you decided to make this call as opposed to, you know, the day after or the day that he was taken into, under house arrest?
Well, we've expressed concerns from the beginning. Just
Right.
this is relevant, as the president did in his statement, and as we have from the podium and other places about his arrest, about the arrests, the politically motivated arbitrary arrests of other Muslim Brotherhood members. Yesterday I made clear, obviously, that
Right.
it's difficult for an inclusive political process to move forward. Beyond that, I don't have any peel the curtain back anecdotes for you here.
Well, does it mean that when you're calling for, that you believe that he is, that the reason for his detention is politically motivated? It's politically motivated detention?
Well, I think we've expressed our concerns about his detention from the beginning.
But until, I just want to know why it was that you didn't, until today, make an express call for his release, or had that always been your position and just you didn't want to, there was a reason that you didn't want to say it publicly?
I just don't want to get into the sausage making behind the scenes
Well,
here.
that's fair enough that you don't want to get into the sausage making, but, you know, this administration represents the American people.
I agree with
And the
you.
American people and the rest of the world would like to know exactly why it is that you do what you do and you say what you say when you say it.
I certainly
And-
understand that, and if there's more I can share with you, I'm happy to do that.
Jen, why are you pressing, as Matt has said, why are you pressing the army to release President Morsi if he's not the president anymore? And 22 million people in Egypt have agreed with the army steps.
Well, I think that our view, as we've stated a number of times here, is that our fundamental goal, I guess I should say, has been that an inclusive and sustainable democracy, where all sectors of society, where all Egyptian people are fully represented, will represent all sides. Beyond that, we feel that includes, of course, the Muslim Brotherhood and other representatives that have been detained.
And do you think that his release won't complicate the situation in Egypt?
I just can't speculate on that.
So if I understand correctly, you're saying you're calling for his release because you think his detention is politically motivated. In other words, that he had not committed any crime. Is that correct?
Well, I
Your
think
understanding, the U.S. government's understanding is that President Morsi did not actually commit any crime.
we're not here to make an
I know
evaluation
you're
of
not.
that. The
but you're
United
telling-
States doesn't
but
make
you
an
believe that
evaluation of
he is-
that.
But you believe that he has been unjustly detained.
The president said that in his statement a week ago.
Well, yeah, but he hadn't said that he should be released until today.
But
So
we've
did something
conveyed our
change?
concerns from the beginning. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. One more.
Yes, you mentioned that Ambassador Patterson met the interim president. When was that?
I don't have a date for you. I'll check if that's
It's not
something I can
yesterday,
get to.
today?
I don't have an update for
Okay,
you.
regarding the president or ex-president Morsi and you're asking for his release, you want to be treated as a citizen, Egyptian citizen, or a former president, or giving an asylum for him?
That's not for us to decide. Do we have one more in Egypt?
Yes,
No,
yes,
not Egypt. I
in
wanted
Egypt
to
too.
change
Okay,
topic.
go ahead.
I raised this issue 2 days or 3 days ago. It's the whatever you can call it, the Patterson issue in Egypt, because I can tell it that even today, as late as today, she was part of the even Friday sermons speeches given by different sheikhs in Cairo regarding what they call it or whatever they said, it's interference in Egyptian internal affairs. I raised this issue 2 days ago and I get an answer, but it seems that do you care about this issue? Do you want to ignore it, or you want to put it in a different way?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question.
The question is how really you are concerned about this issue if U.S. ambassador becoming an issue in a place like Egypt?
Well, I think I used some pretty strong language on how we feel about the motivations for these claims, which are false. And I also reiterated, and I'm happy to reiterate again today, that she is an incredible foreign service officer. She is a valued ambassador. She is someone the Secretary personally thinks very highly of, and will continue to refute any false accusations or claims that are out there.
The reason that I'm raising this issue is not that, I'm not trying to agree or disagree with your evaluation. It's not a propaganda platform here. It's the issue is how we can convey this message to the Egyptians. It seems that they are not getting, not even Egyptians, on the high level media or whatever, they are trying to do the same story again and again.
Well, the best antidote to falsehoods or inaccurate claims are the facts, and we'll continue to convey them from here and at every opportunity on the ground as well.
Change topic?
Mm-hmm.
On Tuesday, the Israeli soldiers arrested a 5-year-old Palestinian child in the occupied city of Hebron, and they blindfolded his father and so on. Are you concerned that they seem to be arresting younger and younger children with every passing month and year and so on?
Well, we have seen, of course, Saeed, the reports. I would note that on that as a part of our country report on human rights practices, which we release regularly, as you know, this report addresses the issue of treatment of minors and expresses our concern.
But that's a very young minor. He's 5 years old.
Well, that's why we have expressed concerns about this in our human rights report, and I would point you to that.
But do you make the point clearly to the Israelis not to arrest 5-year-old boys?
I'm not aware of recent calls on this specifically, but obviously our human rights report...
5-year-old boys don't typically commit crimes?
Well, obviously that's why it was released as part of our human rights report and why our concerns were expressed. That report is made public, and obviously concerns we have are expressed regularly through many channels.
I'm not sure I understand. This specific case is mentioned in the human rights report?
No, the treatment of minors, which is the broad issue that Saeed was raising. But this is a recent incident over the last couple of days.
You're not saying that you're not aware. You're not aware if this has been raised. This specific case has been raised with the Israelis.
Correct. I'm not aware of a specific call on
Could
this
you
case.
find out if it?
I will check if there has been anything.
Because I think that was the question. I'm not sure.
Oh, I wasn't hearing that as the question, but if that is, we'll check if there has been.
Thank you, Beth, for clarifying, but that was the question, actually.
Oh, thank you to Matt for clarifying. Scott?
On Syria, please. In Doha, you'll recall that the Secretary said that each of the London 11 would choose on their own approach to increasing the scope and scale of their assistance to the rebellion. Can you give us an update about where the United States is now in expanding the scope and scale of its assistance to the rebellion?
Just to give everybody the history we're all familiar with, just a couple of weeks ago, the President made clear, of course, that the use of chemical weapons by the regime would change his calculus, and it did. And we made an announcement to expand the scale and scope of our assistance. I still am not able to discuss specifics or give an outline of what exactly that entails. We continue to support efforts, of course, of the international community and other governments to make their own choices about what assistance they will provide, and the Secretary remains in close contact and coordination about that.
Did you see the editorial in the Washington Post this morning about the administration's policy on Syria?
Yes.
Which called it feckless? I'm assuming, but I don't know, so I want to ask the question that you do not agree with that characterization.
I do not.
You do not. So, feckless is one of those funny words. I haven't looked it up in a while, so I did. on this, and the main definition that it seems to be shared by most online dictionaries that I looked at is ineffective. So if you do not agree that the administration's policy has been feckless, what metric are you using to say that it is effective, that it has been effective? Because as far as I remember, the policy of the administration articulated by Secretary Kerry when he first took over was to change President Assad's calculations. Since that articulation of policy, President Assad has changed his calculations, but or seems to have changed his calculation from one where he was not sure if he could win to one where he now knows that he or thinks that he can win. The opposition, instead of getting stronger, has lost ground and has become more disparate and more less cohesive. They had their attempts to form a solid one block have to date been unsuccessful, and things have gotten worse rather than better in terms of their organization. So I'd just like to say what you mean, or how it is that you can say that this policy has been effective.
Well, Matt, I think the context here is incredibly important, especially the fact that the situation on the ground is one where the Secretary is focused on a daily basis, as are many members of the administration. We have taken steps, as you know, I just mentioned some of them in response to Scott's question, and we continue to consider other options with the focus on taking steps that will be most effective and in continuing to strengthen the opposition. We've worked with them on the political front. We've also worked with them on the ground front and taken steps to change that. But
well, first of all, what you told Scott was you said you couldn't talk about the steps that you
correct,
were taking.
and
so
that's been the case.
So let's come back
I
and
did say we've expanded the scale and scope, and we continue to consider other options.
But one would think that a metric for measuring success or effectiveness of a policy would be that the people that you're supporting get more organized and get stronger, rather than getting less organized and falling apart into disparate little groups, and have less power and less control, or less area under their control.
Well, Matt, they did elect leadership, as you know. We continue to work with them on moving forward on expanding the membership and leadership. That's just one component. We also remain focused on talking to our partners, including Russia, including others, on planning for a conference. We've had several meetings about that. We also have taken steps on the third tier of this to provide additional assistance on the ground. I can't get into the specifics of that, but we've talked about it before. And finally, we continue to consider other options. So this is no question, a challenging situation on the ground, a volatile situation on the ground, and that's why we're focused on it every single day.
But I still haven't heard what metric you're using to say that this has not been feckless, that the policy has had feck or whatever, or that it has been effective. I don't see it. And I'm not hearing it from you, and I don't think anyone else is hearing it from you. You're saying that you're going to consider taking other steps. There's steps that you've taken that you can't talk about. But the metric that people can see from the ground, which would be a better organized, a stronger and better organized opposition that's controlling more and more territory, it's the exact opposite of that.
Well, I think I referenced just that the fact that the opposition has had elections, that's one step. I have referenced we've continued to provide aid, increase aid. The Secretary and other members of the administration have been leading the charge and giving aid directly through the SMC and continuing to work with General Idris on the ground. So we are focused on this every single day. I'm not going to get into evaluation day by day. It's a complicated situation.
But I think the point of the editorial, and what I'm trying to get you to explain, is why it is wrong to say that the policy is feckless, because you can't saying that you put money into it doesn't mean that it's
that's not all I said. That's not all I said.
Well,
I talked about the different tiers of assistance and all the steps that we're taking.
Don't you think that it's important for the people to see the consequences for Assad crossing the red line that President Obama has drawn?
Well, I think that's why we took the steps we did, and I'm sorry that I'm not able to go into more specifics.
But we didn't know, or we don't know about the consequences yet. We don't see any consequences.
with the consequences, we're taking the steps we announced a couple of weeks ago.
Jen, on the SMC front, General Idris and his folks say they have not received a single bullet from the U.S. That's lethal aid. On the non-lethal front, on the things that Secretary Kerry has outlined that he intended to give to them, what is the U.S. delivered, and when was that? What is the last thing that the U.S. has actually given to the SMC?
I'd have to get you an update on it. I know we've done that periodically, which I'm happy to do. We are in daily contact with the SMC to discuss what we can do to help support their needs. We're committed to helping them, to working through them as the moderate political and military opposition representatives. And I can't get into specifics about the announcement, as we all know, and I've stated a few times, that the the administration made just a couple of weeks ago. But I can assure you that we are in close contact. A great deal of aid has been delivered. I will see what update we have on all the announcements we've made.
And is that Ambassador Ford, or is that somebody else who's in contact?
He certainly is, but I'm certain it's not him every single day.
Just one more question on that. The reports about an al-Qaeda attack on Free Syrian Army members and folks linked to General Idris. Is there a reaction to that?
We do note, of course, reports that the al-Qaeda-linked militant group Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant has killed a senior FSA commander, also known as Abu Basiar al-Lakhani. We have long made clear our serious concerns with respect to the threat of violent extremist elements in Syria who seek to co-opt the revolution against Assad for their own depraved purposes. That's why we've taken a range of steps to work through the SMC, to work through the moderate components of the opposition.
So does this make you, so originally one of the concerns was that, when you gave weapons to the rebels, you didn't know if it would end up in the hands of jihadists because they were working together. Does this make the lines, delineate the kind of fault lines of who's working with who a little bit more clear for you now?
Which piece of this?
Well, I'm saying, like, if the rebels and the Islamists or al-Nusra or Al-Qaeda related groups are clearly there's problems between them, does this give you more confidence that when you give aid to the rebels, the FSA, that it's not going to end up in the hands of Islamists because they're not working together?
Well, this is one case. I would hate to make a sweeping evaluation. Obviously, that's why we work through General Idris and the SMC, and why we're continuing to take every step possible to make sure any aid, goes through the moderate opposition. We do know, of course, some of the extremist groups and elements of of the opposition. We don't know all, so I don't know that I have an evaluation beyond that of what it means about who's working with whom.
Do you have an update on the situation on the ground in Homs?
I don't have an update for you today, Saeed, beyond the one we talked about just a couple of days ago.
Okay, but it seems that the Free Syrian Army and the rebels are getting ready to abandon Homs and go defend a more defensible.
I don't have an update or any independent confirmation of that.
Okay, does that kind of situation calls for some sort of urgently supplying the rebels, perhaps with weapons that are held up in the pipeline?
I'm not going to speculate on all these. I haven't seen those reports. Our concern a couple of days ago, which I would venture is still our concern, is about the ability of humanitarian assistance to get in, and of course continuing to communicate with, as we do on a daily basis, the SMC and their leaders about their needs on the ground.
So this does not give added urgency to supplying the rebels with arms and other supplies that they might need to hold on?
Saeed, we certainly look at all circumstances on the ground, as well as a range of other issues as we think about future decisions.
Is Ambassador Ford still in the building doing his work?
I believe he is. I'm not sure if he's on travel, but beyond that, I don't have any updates on his whereabouts. Okay.
Pakistan quickly. Malala, the 15-year-old who stood 9 months ago against the Taliban and now living in UK. And today she was addressing the United Nations Youth Assembly, first time ever UN gave such a honor to her. What she was telling that she's still living under the threat of Taliban, but she is not going to go down to the Taliban as far as the girls' education is concerned in Pakistan and around the globe. Her message was today that there is also child slavery that she's talking about in many countries. My question is here, she's still under the threat of Taliban. What they are saying is if they find her anywhere, they will kill her. So what message you think you have for the Pakistani government as far as Taliban's in Pakistan? Obviously she cannot return to Pakistan.
Well, I did hear that she gave a wonderful set of remarks, Goyal, this morning, and certainly her bravery in the face of such violence is inspirational. Education for girls is critical. It's an issue we care deeply about, and it's key to both political and economic progress. And certainly, we discuss a range of issues, as you know, with the Pakistani government.
But as for education for the girls, what message do we have now in Pakistan and many other countries?
It is critical to political and economic progress.
I've got two very brief ones.
Okay.
First is a non-Snowden Russia question.
Okay.
Yesterday, your predecessor, Toria, and Mr. Baer, I think that's his name, the nominee for the OSCE, both said that the Magnitsky list is being reviewed and would more names would be added. Is there any timetable?
I don't have any timetable on that.
Is it possible just to ask? I don't know.
Sure, I don't think we will have one, and that's always been an option, but I'm happy to check for you.
I don't know if there's like a statutory requirement or something like there was the first time around.
Sure.
There was. And then the second one is I'm wondering if you have any reaction to the pardon of the Cambodian opposition leader, Sam Rainsy, by the king.
I do. We welcome the decision to accept the Prime Minister's recommendation of a royal pardon for opposition leader Sam Rainsy to return to Cambodia without incarceration. We call on the Cambodian government to facilitate a safe environment for his return and allow for his meaningful and unfettered participation in the elections. While his safe return will be a significant step in the right direction, we encourage the Cambodian government to continue implementing recommendations by the UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in Cambodia aimed at free and fair elections. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.